Ah.
So,
What do you mean?
yeah.
What do you
like,
mean?
Why not Hong? Because it could be because I suddenly thought it was like, oh, we could actually call it like the Hong Kong Showdown or the Hong Kong Hustle or the whatchamacallit, but we've been calling it the Hong Kong Derby for so long.
What's
I
the
do like Derby still though.
What's the Hong Kong Showdown?
It's the Hong Kong Showdown.
What is that?
Yeah.
What?
know.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Or the Hong Kong Hustle, you know?
What's the Hong Kong Hustle?
It's a Kung Fu Hustle.
Lost your mind.
I am a little sick. Anyway, we're going to be kicking this off on Hardwire LE. We're in the bottom left-hand corner map, starting all the way. In the bottom left-hand corner, we of course have our Blues player coming down from the land of Hong Kong for the showdown. He is gonna go pool first here. Representing the Juggernaut, we have GogojOey.
And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Hardwire LE, we have the Hong Kong Protoss player. He is pink, representing the Juggernauts. It is Bistork. Alright, let's go.
Let's go in the Derby. But yeah, Slide is currently logging in notes of my decline of sanity. We do see GogojOey just doing GogojOey things, not being overly aggressive with that pool first, but still pulling out of gas. Well, I say pulling out of gas. I think he only set one drone into gas.
Yeah, the rest of the drones I think are queued up to go, or would be queued up to go in there. Here we go, 4 lings are going across the map, but there are only 4 lings, so it's not as aggressive as he could have been, as you were saying. Bistork should be fine at home, he should be able to wall off, like, there shouldn't be too much damage being done here.
Surprisingly not going for that forge, that gateway forge this time.
Yeah, instead we just have a full wall off, so Bistork is being a little bit greedy here, but you can afford to be greedy. If there was a big ling flood coming, then maybe GogojOey could break on through here, but I mean, Bistork, he's fine, he's good, he gets his event.
Like so. Also, gonna be skipping out on the Stargate this time, as he is going for stock or follow-up.
Yeah, interesting move here. With this Stalker, he will be able to deny some scouting and keep this Overlord in check. And we'll see what he does behind this, as there it is, he throws down a Twilight Council.
He's gonna go for TTs.
He could. No, you're not wrong.
He's gotta.
I don't know if I'd get that. Oh, the Overlord!
Oh, one more hit! Oh, that's the best feeling in the world if you're a Zerg player. The worst feeling in the world, you're a Protoss player.
Yeah, so close, but so far. Overlord barely survives. We could see a cheeky move with, like, I don't know, a Sentry and the Hallucination, but is that really worth it? It's quite a costly investment, especially when, Bistork is going for Glaives.
Interesting. We'll see how committed he's going to be with this. Robo Facility is what he follows that up with, so should, anyway, be getting that Warp Prism. Could always be an Immortal.
Yeah, I mean, this is what's worrisome, because GogojOey didn't even have Overlord speed, and he was able to get in. Like, that's a little bit on Bistork for allowing that to happen despite having the Stalker. He wasn't in position to stop that from happening, and now GogojOey knows what's happening. He knows what's coming his way, for the most part. He doesn't know how many gateways there are, but he knows there are Glaive Adepts.
Yeah, he's just playing it safe at the moment, going for his Roaches. That Roach Roar, no Spine Crawlers yet, but I'm guessing he's banking on not. He's banking on the assumption that he won't really need them, but he may. 4 more gateways get thrown down. That's a total of 6 gates from the side of Bistork.
Yeah, exactly. That's a lot of gates. Finally, the Overlord is going to get picked off, and this is scary because this is a very big commitment into these Glaive Adepts. This is going to hit hard. And GogojOey still doesn't know. He's a little bit afraid of DTs. He's throwing down spores in each of the bases. He is getting roaches, but will he have enough?
Not yet. It's my input. It's actually droning up at the moment. Okay.
Oh my god.
Still getting a couple of lings to ideally surround the adepts.
Yeah.
Allowing Ravagers to get their corrosive vials in.
Exactly. For a moment there, GogojOey was a little bit supply block, but it does back off. Decent bile. Oh my god, the War Prism almost goes down.
Yeah, the War Prism almost goes down, and GogojOey is able to force a cancel in that Warpin as well. Already, this defense is looking... I mean, it's looking pretty tight for GogojOey, when it maybe shouldn't have been.
Yeah, exactly.
They really didn't have a lot of units.
I don't know about this. Ling run by the... Oh my god, more than half the Lings all go down for free. And now this Adept count has gone quite high. GogojOey, he also droned up a little bit as this was happening. He doesn't have a lot of Roach Ravager. He barely has any. It's so exposed.
I'll say this though for GogojOey, he is doing a decent job of just keeping these Adepts at the edge of creep while he buys time for his Roaches and Ravagers to finish up. Taking this a lot more seriously with the follow-up, throws down a Spine Crawler. It's not quite in position and not quite done yet, but it will be soon.
That it will. The Adepts, they move on forward. They target down every single Queen, every single Ravager as well. The Lings finally show up, but not before a lot of damage was done. Decent surround. The Biles up.
The surrounds, man. All the Lings have started to get evaporated, but not before more than half of the Adepts get taken out.
Yeah,
Shade does finish, and there actually wasn't anything here to defend.
Exactly, that's the thing. Like, the Lings are running out. Like, a lot of them have gone down, and there's just not a lot of Roach Ravager. Drones are getting picked off left and right. The positioning here as well, it's so awkward for the Lings to actually, you know, deal with these Adepts.
Yeah, even the Ravagers can't really get their shots in because how awkward it is to maneuver around the mineral line. 21 drones go down. That's why you always got to take the Shade seriously, right? It only takes one for the Protoss player, the Adept player, to really mess up your economy.
Yeah, again, and the Adepts, they just keep on going. More drones are going down. Bistork has more than paid. Like, this opening, this build has more than paid for itself. He hasn't killed GogojOey, but he has crippled him. GogojOey will eventually force this back because he has a good enough Roach count now, but Bistork is already working on Immortals.
Yeah, I feel like there's a very narrow window of opportunity for GogojOey to counterattack, and he may have just let it slip.
And I don't blame him, because if he goes across the map with his army, then he's just gonna die to all these Adepts. Like his economy, I should say. So yeah, GogojOey's in a really rough place, and the reason for that is because he never went for a follow-up scout, and he just didn't take it seriously enough. Again, he was working with very little Roach Ravager to begin with. It took him a long time to get up to a decent count.
It absolutely did. Maybe if he got the Warp Prism very early on, again, it was just about one volley away from getting taken out, we would have had a completely different story, but Bistork, he recognized the threat early on enough. Sure, he had to cancel a warp in, but it's well worth it to keep up that amount of pressure and kill 24 drones with his Adept harass. That was absolutely insane. 26 drones, sorry.
26, mate, 26. It also didn't help that GogojOey threw away a bunch of Lings at the very beginning of the fight. If you remember when he tried to go across the map, they were just dead for free.
I was trying to forget.
Now in come the Adepts. How good is the micro? I mean, GogojOey has a decent army, and the War Prism almost gets focused down again.
Yeah, these Queens want to get on top of it, or under it, question mark, but they just aren't finding that opening.
Exactly, they took down a lot of the shields. They were able to deal a little bit of extra hull damage as well, but couldn't close the distance. And Bistork, instead of trying to make the all-in work, he expands and he takes a third.
May as well, you know. Sorry, crippled GogojOey. The one way for GogojOey to really get back in this is if Bistork doesn't take his own economy seriously.
Oh god, meanwhile we tried to see a massive warping into the main base, but that was a little bit ambitious by Bistork. He gets forced back. Oh god, again almost loses that War Prism. At the same time, we have a mass amount of Adepts here at the natural base, but this time there are Lings and there are Roaches.
The Shade actually completes. not entirely expecting that. It's a decent Sim City, but it's even better. I was gonna say even better evacuations from GogojOey. That Warp Prism is still so low. Bistork's gonna have to recall because I don't think he can afford a single risk.
It's on 1 HP, mate. It was on 1 HP, and somehow it survived with both Immortals. I don't know how. It's crazy. The Queens are having a hard, awkward time, like really closing the distance and getting on top of it. But as you said, I was surprised as well that Bistork was as aggressive as he was, and he committed to the shade. Now he barely has anything to defend.
Yeah, just like that, GogojOey's back in this game. He has a massive army supply lead. And sure, all it takes is one Purification Nova, but not in this case.
Oh, exactly. The Roach Ravager's trying to close the distance, but you know what? The shield battery's finished up. Is Overcharge going to be enough here? Nicely done. We have the Overcharge on the second on the second shield battery, not the first, so it survives and it holds.
Wow. And just like that, Bistork is back in this game. I'll say this though, GogojOey has definitely stabilized. He's not in an ideal place economically, as you know, he's matching bases with his Rotas opponent, but that's what the Spire is for.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting move here by GogojOey. It kind of makes sense, right? Like, he doesn't really have many upgrades. Even though he has an Evo Chamber, he never really used it. So his Roach Ravager is honestly not amazing. So it's like, screw Roach Ravager. Let's try and blindside my opponent by going to Mutas.
Yeah, I tell you what, Mutas are definitely a lot more reliable dealing with this War Prism than Queens.
True.
And the Queens, they did a really good job getting it this low. Couldn't follow through though, and that's why GogojOey needs an alternative, you know?
Yeah, the question is, can GogojOey survive long enough? Because maybe we got a Soul Train coming across the map. We have a couple of Purification Novas going off as well on the Queens, on the Roaches, and there are plenty of shield batteries, sorry, of sentries of force fields.
Yeah, plenty of sentries of force fields, but there are also plenty of Ravagers, and also a couple of gaps in these force fields, unfortunately. Sentries are very quickly running out of energy, Adepts very quickly running out of life. Come on, that Warp Prism is still alive. I don't know how.
It's still alive.
These Disruptors are super exposed. Oh, one beautiful Purification Nova, but I don't think that's going to be enough, mate. The Warp Prism finally goes down, and I think GogojOey's just about done it. This one Colossus, what are you doing, mate?
Get out of here, mate. You need to be a Disruptor, not a Colossus, since the Colossus is going to go down. The entire army of Bistork falls, including the Warp Prism, and now there is nothing at home. We have gateway units. He lost all of his Immortals, Disruptors, even that random Colossus.
I don't know what the Colossus is doing. Guys, what's going on here? I want to join. No, get out of here, you'll die.
No one wants you here, buddy. No one wants you.
Go on, get out of here. Blink. Only now starting up. These Stalkers really can't retreat to much. I guess they can retreat to that Warp Prism, but that does mean that Bistork has to forfeit this Cert base. GogojOey's army is back with a vengeance.
It is back, and in a couple of seconds we are going to have another Nova. Is it going to be enough? 16 workers go down. Even if Bistork cleans up this army, like, the damage has already been dealt, and GogojOey has the economy to rebuild. Meanwhile, Bistork, he can't, and the Lings are getting on top of the Disruptor. Up!
They do. I mean, the Purification Nova does go off, but at this point, it really doesn't matter much. All of the Lings are coming in to reinforce. One Colossus does come out, but that's not going to be enough either. GG. GogojOey takes game 1.
GG. I can't, especially after the opener, I can't believe GogojOey was able to come back from that.
That was inspiring, honestly, and I don't even play Zerg. After being down, what, 20-something workers in a ZvP, losing 26 drones like that, but still being able to claw your way back and take the W, that was beautiful.
Yeah, GG. That was very well done there in the end. Oh boy, and we'll see how this goes as we are going to be diving into game number 2. What I will say is that I think Bistork was overly aggressive as well. Like, after dealing the initial damage, like, he was in a great place. He didn't need to push out again with all those Immortals and Sentries. Like, he could have just chilled on 3 bases, slowly gotten a 4th up, and built upon his army, you know?
Yeah, a little bit impatient, a little bit tunnel vision, shall we say. He was already getting at 3rd base if he just hung back and really made sure that he allowed that base to get saturated and threw down more steady defense potentially, he would have been totally fine. Have had a massive advantage going into the mid-late game, but game played out how it played out.
Yeah. It did. And now we're diving into game number 2 of this best of 3 series between our two Hong Kong boys. Meanwhile, I see Stream Elements in the chat.
What? The bot?
Yes. Stream Elements, the bot is in the chat. Is this a non-NA-EU tournament? Yes, this is an Oceanic and Southeast Asian tournament. Region locked for only those 2 regions.
That it is, and that's why we got all of our players, except for Probe. This Probe doesn't play. So he's planning out his next cosplay for a 6 AOE stream.
True.
He's gonna show up as an actual English man. Does he play England?
I
know
no
what he
idea.
plays. Yeah. I think he should do that. He should have a cosplay for each civ in AOE, and then he changes every time he changes civs in an actual tournament. It's gonna be so much downtime for him to get ready. But anyway, that is enough. We are now continuing this series on Glittering Ashes LE. We're in the bottom left-hand corner map, sorting all the way to the bottom left-hand corner. We have the blue Zerg player who came back from the dead, representing Juggernauts. He is from Hong Kong. He is GogojOey.
And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Glittering Ashes LE, we have the Kong from Hong Kong, I should say, the pink Protoss player representing the Juggernauts. It is Bistork.
I can imagine it now. Or at least his cosplay for when he plays Roos.
It's been a while since I've seen Probe cosplay, not gonna lie. I hope he continues to do that, regardless of where his stream goes, of what game he plays. I hope he's enjoying himself. I know towards the end he wasn't really having the best of times in StarCraft, so yeah, wish Probe the best. Wish Probe the best.
Definitely.
Would he have to rename himself to Villager or something? There are no probes in AoE, just saying.
For now. For now they aren't. We'll see in the first expansion they come up with that game.
We'll see. So far, GogojOey did open up once again with a pull first, but the Lings didn't really deal too much damage. Bistork once again holds, but at the same time, GogojOey wasn't too aggressive either. He only made a handful of Lings, didn't really overcommit to them, and now Bistork, he's coming out across the map.
Yeah, his initial adept to scout, but probably the only adept he's going to be throwing across the map for the time being, as this time, Bistork does go to Stargate. A lot more meta.
Yep, this is kind of what we expect, especially on Glittering Ashes. Meanwhile, okay, nicely done. GogojOey doesn't lose too many of it. Oh, no, never mind! So drone does get picked off.
Already. It's a little bit of value. He does also get a nice full scout. Looks like GogojOey isn't going for any early tech buildings or anything like that. Just 3 hatch. Metabolic boost.
Yeah.
It's all G.
Everything's pretty standard from the side of GogojOey. Meanwhile, his Overlord will dip in and scout. This time he will confirm that it is not a Twilight Council opening, so he doesn't have to worry too much about a ground focus army, and instead he can focus on droning. And I'm really curious to see how GogojOey approaches Skytoss, if it is Skytoss, to be fair. Bistork, he doesn't have to throw down a second Stargate from here.
Well, before GogojOey ended up in a lab as a researcher, we did see a lot of roach marches from him. So yeah, maybe he's sticking to that still, despite the newer map pool. Or maybe he's adapted a little bit since then.
Yeah, we'll see, as Bistork does indeed throw down a second Stargate, so it is going to be Sky Toss. He is going here in a very interesting way. He opted not to be greedy and like focus on +1 air attack first or anything like that. So he still does get Warp Gate. We still don't see any kind of upgrades on the Cyber Core. So because of that, GogojOey doesn't have an early tell that it is going to be Sky Toss.
Yeah, Oracle and Void Ray doesn't really tell much. From here, the Protoss player could still tech switch into a Robo or into a Twilight Council.
Yeah, that they could. So GogojOey just has to be on his toes when it comes to his scouting. Meanwhile, the Adepts, I mean, Bistork has done such a great job of just being annoying. He just keeps moving out with whatever units he can, whether they're Void Rays, Oracles, even these Adepts. He's actually getting a decent amount of drone kills. Oh my god.
Yeah, look at that target firing. 6 drones for only 2 Glaveless Adepts.
Yeah.
That was more than worth it.
Exactly. Very nicely done there by Bistork. Meanwhile, GogojOey, he's being punished for his greed because he didn't have any lings on the ground. He's just been producing drones and queens, and these lings he had from earlier. So because of that, he didn't really have much to deal with those Adepts. So yeah, he just wasn't expecting that by any means. Meanwhile, Bistork goes in, he scouts, confirms the timing of the lair, has to wait a little bit longer though for the lair to finish before he really gets an eye on whether it's going to be a Spire or a Hydra.
Despite this, GogojOey still taking this seriously, just in case there's a Hydra. We still see that Robo facility get thrown down. I can see a Robo Bay behind that for some disruptors.
True. It does look like he wants to go Void Ray Disruptor from his production, I should say, as the Queens right now are doing a decent job at keeping these Void Rays in check. Oh, Bistork has to be careful not to overextend. Meanwhile, especially with +1 range, I was kind of expecting a Hydra to be thrown down, but at the moment it's just pure Queens and Roaches.
That highway is getting set up, although Bistork is doing everything he can, I do mean everything, to prevent the construction.
Exactly. He will be slowing this down due to his denial of all this creep. Meanwhile, there's that robotics bay. You were talking about it. We even have a second robotics facility for that double disruptor production, and that's exactly what you need when you're up against Queens and Roaches and anything on the ground.
Like all these Queens. And eventually Roaches. GogojOey not neglecting that Spire. I think Bistork sees it with the reveal on these Queens.
Oh, that's a good question. He did not see it. Oh. Okay, so Bistork, he's a little bit in the dark. He's still going Skytoss though. We have a third Stargate on the way, and as well as a Fleet Beacon. But again, because he doesn't know about the potential Corruptors on the way, he doesn't know that he needs to prepare himself for that to start working on things like Archons and other supporting units. Oh god, the Void Rays!
One of them immediately taken out unnecessarily.
Ugh.
Should add the Oracle follows. But on the bright side, that means more supply for carriers, right?
Sure, question.
Silver linings. Silver linings.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great pick-off there by GogojOey to catch a stray Void Ray like that. And also, because of that, these Void Rays haven't been able to do much in a while. Typically, we see Void Rays go in and like snipe buildings, snipe Queens. They've only really been able to deny creep.
Yeah. To be fair, these Void Rays also don't have Flux Veins, and I don't really see Bistork researching that at the moment. He wants to invest most of his resources in the carriers and disruptors.
Yep. Carriers are on the way. Finally, Flux Veins is on the way as well. He's listening to the stream through that 2-minute delay somehow.
He's a Time Lord.
There you go. There you go. It's on the way. Meanwhile, he's, again, despite that slip up earlier, he's been doing decent with these Void Rays, but again, he still hasn't scouted that Spire. Speaking of Spire, I'm surprised, despite the Spire being done, we don't have any upgrades on the way. Even though we don't have any Corruptors, typically a Zerg player will start investing into them and start working on +1 and +2 flyer attack, and then when they finally do get Corruptors, they're already well upgraded.
Yeah, what is GogojOey saving his money for at the moment? Well, Hive is about to finish up.
Sure.
The only thing I can think of are Vipers, but he doesn't need that many of them.
Yeah, he may just go full Spellcaster, I guess. There we go, Vipers on the way. Finally, we see an upgrade. It's going to be a greater Spire. in the time given, honestly, +1 air attack could have been researched. We do have a Roach run by, forces a recall, but doesn't get any economic damage.
Unfortunately. Well, these Roaches are starting to get taken out, but they've already sort of done their job here. GogojOey wants to slowly start trading them for some air units. Hey, no, forcing that recall. Pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, the Void Rays, they do target down one of the hatcheries. They do force it down. Meanwhile, ooh, they don't want to fight here. Oh my god, but they get a kill!
Wow. The DPS on those Void Rays were way too quick for GogojOey to even react. Just like that, there's a very real possibility that if we go into the late game, GogojOey may just starve.
Yeah, I mean, GogojOey, he is maxed out now, but he doesn't have the best army. He's working with Corruptors, which are great, but he still has a lot of Roaches, and the Roaches are kind of dead supply.
They definitely are at the moment. Just trying to trade them, but you still need to get some value out of that trade. That's why we see, these GogojOey, pulling back with the Roaches if things get a little dicey.
Yeah, like he's trying to go for a run by. He wants to trade them and get some value, but he keeps running into these carriers. So he's not really finding too much. A bunch of the Roaches are getting taken out. Finally, we do see some of these air upgrades on the way. Still only 1 Spire though, so we're not seeing 1-1. So again, GogojOey's Corruptors, they're not ideal, and Bistork has to be careful. Oh, his Void Ray is getting caught out!
Beautiful Parabomb covering just about every single Void Ray. The Prismatic Alignment is going to do wonders against the Corruptors though, and this is before the carriers even get into position. GogojOey already with a small amount of Corruptors cannot really fight those carriers, but he does pull them completely out of position for the Roaches.
Yeah, exactly. The carriers, they move away, so the Roaches move in. They don't deal any economic damage, but killing a couple of shield batteries and a couple of cannons, it does matter because there could be a follow-up engagement here later on. Bistork is aware, so he immediately does rebuild that static defense. Meanwhile, Storm is on the way. We have our High Templar. Oh god. But I did want to point out that a lot of Void Rays fell earlier. Like, the Void Ray count is significantly lower than what it was before.
Yeah, what's a buffer against these Corruptors now for Bistork?
Exactly.
Storm? Question mark? Archons?
Storm,
real buffers.
Storm is okay, Archons are okay as well, but this is the problem. Like, carriers are good, but you don't want too many carriers. You know, six carriers is kind of like where you want to stop, and at the moment we have 8. That's a lot of supply that could be used elsewhere, like in Void Rays or Archons or High Templar or Tempest even. I don't know, anything else.
Yeah, carriers are very much like cake.
Yeah, go on.
It's good. You don't want too much of it.
Okay, yeah, just like cake.
Yeah.
What are you on, mate?
It's like carrot cake, you know?
Oh my god. Anyway, here we go. Bistork is moving out, going to be denying a lot of this creep. How good are the Purification Novas? They do go off, but oh, they all go off at the same time.
Yeah, and only on a handful of queens. Not enough to really kill them, though. Or at least not enough of these queens. Still plenty of transfusions available for GogojOey. Meanwhile, the Brootlings are having a wonderful time trying to zone out the army. Beautiful feedback!
Exactly, one of the Vipers already does get feedback. A beautiful storm on top. Oh my god, the entire army just gets stormed!
And the Purification Nova cleans up. A lot of the ground army still not dealt with here for Bistork.
Yeah, exactly, and this is what I was talking about. Like, again, even though the armies were maxed out, like these Roaches are just not. They just take up so much supply. For none of these Roaches, get him out of here, mate. Get him out of here. Meanwhile, finally, Bistork, he's setting up his own Zealot run by his Ling. Sure, they're on the way, but mate, there's plenty of cannons, plenty of shield batteries here to defend at home. Mama Ship is on the way.
Indeed, it is. Just seems like in that previous engagement, GogojOey was really unwilling to fight without Infestors. But now that they're out, we'll see a great fungal.
Bro.
We see a Parasitic Bomb follow-up. Not quite, unfortunately. But metabolic boost, microbial shroud definitely helps a little.
Yeah, I mean, great. Now the rest of the spellcasters are out. We have Vipers, we have Infestors. There's a lot to control here for GogojOey. On top of all that, we have Transfuses with those Queens. So it's going to be difficult for Bistork to really push in. But what GogojOey is really missing here is a Spore Forest. Like, if you're up against Skytoss like this, like, mate, Spores help so much.
They absolutely do. Notice how this one base hasn't really been mining since it came up. That's because it's just a mobile suck station for these Vipers. Ooh, decent feedback.
Yeah, I think only one Viper left with any energy here, so GogojOey has to back off. He has to regather that energy, suck on some of these buildings, and Bistork is having a hard time pushing in. But he's not having a hard time expanding.
Well...
yeah, maybe.
I would like to see Bistork be a little bit more greedy here.
True. Like, double expanding from this point would not be out of the question for Bistork. He has plenty of room to do so. But finally, we have this run by from GogojOey, and he could deny a base. This base is looking pretty vulnerable, so finally GogojOey is going to get some value.
Not if the mama ship has anything to say about it, though.
Yeah, there we go. Meanwhile, at the same time, Bistork, he finally does respond to this. Are we going to see a denial on the base? The Banelings are waddling in. Up.
But not quite finding the connections. Will get taken out by the Sky Toss. But that does mean that GogojOey is a little bit more free on the map to maneuver his army. Only a handful of Vipers and Corruptus here, though.
Yeah, exactly. They have to be careful. They have to respect these High Templar. If they get anywhere close to them, feedbacks will go down on every single one of these Vipers. Meanwhile, upgrades are now on the way. Finally, we have +3 as well as +1 carapace for those Corruptors. That will definitely help out, especially against those carriers. And yeah, we'll see again. Like, I do kind of like GogojOey's army. There's just a lot that has to go on, you know.
Yeah, he does need to nail those perfect spells in the right sequence. That's already a really good fungal. Even better microbial shrouds. We don't get the Parabomb zone nor the abduct. And just like that, with one missing sequence in the spell puzzle, GogojOey isn't quite able to capitalize. There's that abduct.
But there's no follow-up. That's the thing. Like, we need more Corruptors here. We have so much supply in Broodlords and Infestors. Is it going to be enough? I don't think it is, as the Zerg army is kind of struggling here. We have decent fungals, though, and the Interceptor count is getting a little bit low.
And the Interceptor count is just about dealt with, but all of these Tempests in the back line are really holding the fight, or really supporting the fight here for Bistork. Another fantastic fungal, but another lacking follow-up.
Yeah, we just needed, again, there were just too many Broodlords. They did their job. I don't know if you noticed, at the start of the fight, they killed every single High Templar, which was pretty sick. But then the Broodlords didn't really have much else to do, and as we saw, there just wasn't enough anti-air there. We have the Corruptors coming out now, but, I mean, so many of the Spellcasters just died.
They really did. And these Zealots are, funnily enough, even more trouble. Another really good fungal, though, and the Mothership at least gets taken out. I think it's a moot point, though.
Yeah, every single Infestor just died. There are only a handful of Corruptors left, and it is not going to be enough. GG gets called, and Bistork ties up the series.
Sideways 1-1.
Oh.
Wow. I feel like GogojOey might have given himself too many units of micro there, or to control, potentially. Because, you know, having Queens, Vipers, and Infestors, that's pretty standard for late game Zerg nowadays. He also went ham on the Broodlords, though, and he really tried to target down those High Templars, he was saying. Pretty early on in the fight.
Yeah.
Instead of that, he abducted the Mothership or threw down a couple of Parabombs. Completely different scenario.
Yeah. I do think that, yeah, in the end, GogojOey was just a little bit lacking there in that late game scenario. Just a little bit. Meanwhile, Bistork, he was looking pretty comfortable throughout the game. Like, sure, there were a couple of moments where he slipped up with like his Void Ray control here or there, but nothing major, you know.
Yeah. He knew what his win condition was. Build, Sky Toss, don't trade inefficiently.
Yeah, and don't make.
And he did both. And yeah, that's for you, Ares.
It's for you.
Actually, Phoenix is in this scenario. Yeah, no. Yeah, I was gonna say maybe if you want to chase down the Vipers, but you might as well just have High Templar for feedback. You know, may as well.
Meanwhile,
by the way, Stream Elements is
go on.
Stream Elements is saying that you could do a real good Stewie.
Is he talking to me or is he talking to you?
I think he's talking to you.
Do I sound like Stewie?
Yeah.
Maybe? I don't hear it.
I don't remember what Stewie sounds like. It's been a long time since I watched Family.
Fair enough.
Since I saw an episode of Family Guy.
So make sure I Funada Stream Elements made in the chat. Meanwhile, shout out to Demi. He's also there in the chat. He's waiting for his next opponent. Hopefully this time his electricity holds. And I guess that's confirmation that his electricity did come back.
Yeah, that's the best sign, actually. See them in the chat, it means the electricity is back. Yes.
Yeah.
He will have another shot. And speaking of another shot, we're going to be continuing and concluding the series on Berliningrad. We're in the bottom right-hand corner map, spawning all the way in the bottom right-hand corner. The blue Zerg player going for a 12 pool. He is going to be representing the Juggernaut. We have the researcher himself. He is GogojOey.
And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Berlingrad LE, we have the Kong from Hong Kong himself. The pink Protoss also representing the Juggernauts. It is Bistork. Or I should say, as Ranger says in the chat, be God.
Oh, I read that as by God.
By God? Yeah, it works as well.
Is that like a demigod?
Sure, except he only shows up once every 2 weeks.
Wait. Right, alright. A demigod would be like a
half god.
Call it?
Yeah.
Yeah, a bi-god would be a double god.
Yeah, yeah. Like
instead of having just one god parent, he'll have two. No, wait.
Meanwhile, I don't know if you pointed this out, but GogojOey did open up with a 12 pool.
That he did. May as well on a map like Berliningrad. Not only did he do that, actually, I'm not sure who opened up that mineral line.
Yeah.
Was it GogojOey or Bistork that mined?
I think it was.
Patch?
Yeah, I think it was Bistork, mate. So Bistork ended up helping GogojOey. Meanwhile, we need a full wall. If we have a chrono on the Zealot, is it going to come out in time? It looks like it just barely will.
But one Zealot's not going to be enough here, mate. Not against a 12 pool. Bistork has to do a very delicate dance back and forth, and he's trying to bait these Zealots, but GogojOey ain't taking it, mate.
Oh my god, exactly. Bistork has to be so careful here. If he overextends a little bit too much, then we will see a full surround on that Zealot. The Lings are waiting for their moment, for their opportunity. Now, there are two Zealots, and they get surrounded. Up!
That's the surround that GogojOey needed. The probe gets taken out. The Zealots fall quick shortly after.
Ooh.
This Adept, I think it should be able to get out with Proto Boost. The probes are now moving in.
He needs to protect the pylon. He needs to. The pylon's gonna go down, and the Adept doesn't finish.
Oh, what? It doesn't?
It doesn't finish, mate.
That doesn't finish.
Oh my god. GogojOey delaying so much here. Not just the Adepts, but also Warp Gate as well. All this lost mining time.
Here's the craziest thing to me, like, GogojOey decides to join up after this. He's happy with what he's achieved, you know? He gets that delay.
Yeah. It's one of those things where if he had Ling flooded behind it, then he probably would have won the game. But it's always a risk. Like there's always a chance where he kills the pylon, but the Adept does get out, right? Or maybe he just doesn't kill the pylon, so it would have been a risk. Instead, GogojOey does drone up, and now it is on these two Adepts. There's no Ling speed. These Adepts, they got a lot of work to do.
They absolutely do. And we've seen just how well Bistork is able to target fire with even Glaveless Adepts from that previous game. He needs to repeat that this time.
Yeah, that he does. The two Adepts are looking to shade in. They do not, though. There are plenty of Lings. There are plenty of Queens. Bistork doesn't deal any damage. He confirms that there is a third base, and at least he'll get a Creep Tumor.
Yeah, he gets a Creep Tumor, and one way of looking at it is the presence of these Adepts do kind of force GogojOey to build a couple of Lings instead of droning up hard. He's still droning up pretty hard, though.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, ooh, nice control so far. The Adepts, they tried to get into the mirror line, but no, says GogojOey. He keeps his workers alive, and these Adepts still haven't done much. But they're just waiting for their opportunity.
which isn't right now, unfortunately. It gets more tumors.
Eh,
And again, that's really important on a map like Berliningrad, especially against a player like GogojOey,
True.
who is known for his very quick roach timings.
Yeah, and he gets a larva as well. Like, these adepts are still getting valued. No big kills like drones, but it's still something. And on top of all of that, he keeps the adepts alive.
We can still utilize them later on for even just scouting to just check what tech GogojOey is going for. Speaking of value, though, GogojOey is currently up 10 workers.
Jeez. It's 10 workers. He's got his third base up and running. Do we have a lair? Not yet, but again, he's still catching up when it comes to his gases. He's throwing down some spores. He did scout the Stargate opening, so he's getting himself ready for that. And yeah, the ball is kind of in Bistork's court. Like, where does he go from here? Does he try and slow the game down? Does he go for a second Stargate again?
I think he may.
God.
Now, what is the best value of money even that you can really get in this scenario? Well, yeah, Void Race is the answer. Throw down a second Stargate, get more Void Race.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, again, he's done a really good job at denying creep, so it makes sense for him to do this. Like, a Queen Walk is delayed if it was to come out. Meanwhile, we have triple Queen production. That's a lot of Queens.
Queen production, goddamn. I didn't even process what you said until I heard it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, GogojOey really wants to make it across the map of his queens, doesn't he?
He really does, mate. Roaches are on the way as well, so this push is going to hit hard. This third base is looking quite vulnerable, and Bistork just doesn't have a lot of units. Here we go.
Queens don't even care that you don't have a creep highway. They're walking in the dirt and the mud.
Yeah, they're getting in there, they're getting dirty, and you know what? It could work as well. GogojOey is on the way. Bistork does scout it, and I feel like in this position, you gotta give up that third base. Like, you can try and trade as best you can there, but he's gotta be careful not to overcommit.
Do you want to in this scenario, though? Like, maybe if you canceled earlier on, sure.
But 4 oracles?
Yeah, and with 4 oracles out, that's even more of a... That's even more of a question mark.
Aye, mate. He was going mass oracle. He's still making 2 oracles at a time. That is not the unit you need right now, Bistork.
Especially when they all die.
This is like, he pulled an Ares on us, mate. He's like, yo, let's go mass oracle. It's like, mate, the Void Race is such a good unit, mate.
I feel like it's more fitting for Ares to make if he made Phoenixes, but yeah, it's a refusal to make Void Race. GG is called. GogojOey takes that series 2-1, and he will be our first player in the grand finals. Woo!
Wow, GG, well played. We saw Bistork really dominate and excel in a late game on Glittering Ashes, you know, on a much larger map when he can get to the Sky Toss. But when it comes to these smaller maps, he's struggling a little bit more, and GogojOey popped off with that 12 pool.
Yeah, rip by God. This chat is lamenting.
Oh, God. And yeah?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say I was definitely very...
Internet? Oh, God. Yaku, please. Come back to me. Yep. But I'm sure we'll get his
concentration and thought. Oh,
you just came back. You came back.
Ah, beautiful.
Can you restate your thoughts from the beginning, please?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I was just saying I was definitely very impressed from Bistork. Even in game number 1, which he didn't really win, he had a fantastic opening. In game number 2, he was making a lot of little moves that stacked up, but in the end, wasn't quite meant to be. In game number 3, he made an assumption that GogojOey, of all players, wasn't going to be aggressive on the shortest map in the current pool. Not a very good decision. Yeah, not a very good assumption to make, unfortunately.
Exactly. Bit of a feels bad, man, moments there. As GogojOey moves on to the grand finals, and we have our third place match. Third place, yeah, it technically is our losers finals.
Third place match. lower bracket finals. Are we having predictions for this one, or?
You know what? We can, man. We have the technology.
Oh, man,
Let's-
as
let's-
well.
Yeah, let's make it happen.